This is the Wandering Mike.
Welcome, everyone, to the Wandering Mike. Today I'm here with Katie. Hey, Katie, what's up?
Hello, Mike. How's it going?
Pretty good. Was a nice day today.
hmm
And now I'm looking forward to our conversation. I think it's going to be an interesting episode that we're going to do.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming. It has been.
You have evaded me.
I know, I've been putting it off.
And now it's the last time we're going to see each other.
Yes. Yeah,
Because
you're
you'll be
leaving. Yeah,
going out
forever.
tomorrow and then I'm leaving.
Yeah. Just disappearing from the hostel shouldn't be allowed.
Well, life's long. So we might see each other somewhere.
Yeah, in the small country of Australia when I'm there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what people always say though. Like literally, when I tell people I'm going to Australia, they're like, "Oh yeah, I'm going there too. We're gonna see each other." I'm like, Where in Australia are you going? How are we gonna see each other?"
Well, what is it? Like the second smallest country, right?
Yeah, it's basically Luxembourg.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Maybe a tiny bit bigger. Like a couple hundred people. Yeah. Just a little bit.
Um, but yeah. Um, so to get this party started, Katie, if you just want to introduce yourself to the people, tell us anything you want about yourself, your life, anything at all that you want to share.
Yeah. Well, I am 24 years old. I'm from Canada and oh, it's a really tricky question. It's a little open, isn't it? Um,
That's what it's supposed to be.
I see. Um,
Well, what you doing here in Queenstown?
here in Queenstown. Well, I'm working for Ultimate Hikes. I'm a chef here, on the lodges, at the lodges. And yeah, I've been cooking. I used to be a chef back in Canada too, and it was a lot of fun. I'm
Right.
super excited. Um, I think it's one of the best jobs of my life. I'm having a really great time here. Yeah.
Yeah, I can attest to that. Like,
Yeah.
you're not just saying that. Like, every time you come off, didn't you literally say this time you come off? You're like, I'm a little sad that I had to leave. Isn't that what you
Yeah.
said?
I did say that. Yeah. Every day is just so overwhelming. I'm so glad to be where I am right now. I guess that's a good way of putting it. There was a certain point where I was like, God, I've been so happy every day. Like, and then I started worrying if I was on the brink of a mental breakdown because I was so happy. But
Right.
then the days just kept staying as yeah, just happy. I don't know if you've experienced uh, I guess I didn't experience it until recently, the feeling of euphoria when you're like
Right.
super, super happy, but not in like a drug way. Well, actually, exactly like in a drug way, but not with the drugs, just as like a an actual emotion. Like I kind of feel like sometimes I feel like I'm high, but in just like a really happy way. Yeah, if you know what I
I
mean.
feel like I do know what you mean.
Mm,
And it's, yeah, it's kind of a funny one because I feel like um, for someone that definitely had his experiences with drugs, I can definitely say that when you actually experience a high sober, it is so much more powerful because you are basically sober. So you can really, and if you know what I mean,
mhm.
it's like it's more because you're actually um, experiencing it rather than, I mean, you're experiencing it on the drug as well, but your whole body is kind of numbed down while you're experiencing it.
Yes.
So I feel like achieving the high or the euphoria while sober, it's just so much more intense and therefore, yeah, so much more meaningful, in my opinion as well. And um, to be honest, I do think that I probably at 24 haven't experienced that yet in my life. I feel like I also just recently discovered that while I was in Portugal actually, and kind of came to a feeling where I know my purpose more or less, and then it kind of all fell into place, and that's when I started experiencing um these things more often. It's obviously also not because I also keep saying, and I don't know if how your experience is because you are saying like you're just so happy the whole time.
Mhm.
For me, it's definitely not like overall. This is the best I've felt in my life, which I think is great because it means it just gets better and better. Which hopefully it'll stay like that. Um, but obviously, not every day I wake up and I feel euphoria. So for
No.
me,
Yeah.
it's not like that at all. But it's like a general um, kind of joy, like a general yeah. Just for me, it's a lot about that purpose. I think it's a lot of like belonging and just feeling like you're at a place where you know what you're doing. You know, you feel empowered. You feel like you have control over where it's going, and it's going into a direction where you're kind of proud that it's going there. Um, so that's kind of what it is for me. I don't know if I
No.
got away from the
Yeah.
feeling you were trying to describe.
Yeah. I feel like it's, like, I do feel moments of, like, sadness too. And that's how I know that it's okay. It's not, like, some mental breakdown, right?
Right.
Yeah. And the moments of euphoria definitely come, like, in little bursts where I'm just like, I just feel so grateful for where I am, and I just feel like I'm exactly where I'm meant to be, in my life right now. Um, yeah, and that's super, super powerful and really cool, and I think I haven't experienced that for a long time in my life. Um, yeah, I haven't experienced that at all until very recently, and it's just really crazy, really cool. Yeah.
So if you do want to go into that, what got you excited about this shop in particular? Like what motivated like the change from Canada to New Zealand, this job out in nature specifically? Like what excited you about this situation here that you put yourself in?
Oh, that's a really good question. Well, I got a job, I guess when I first came to New Zealand, I wanted not so extreme weather because Canada gets like -40 and +40, and I was pretty
Mm,
sick of it. So I was like, I just want some mild, like mild weather, like
right.
year round. And that's exactly what New Zealand has. So I'm happy with that. And I got a job as a chef in Wanaka near Queenstown here.
Right.
And I remember just feeling kind of bummed about it. Like I was like, I
Mm,
don't know if I really want to do that. Because when I worked as a chef in Canada, it was like one of the worst mental health moments ever. Like it's just
mm,
such a stressful job. And I was like, I don't know if I want to do that while I'm on vacation,
right.
essentially.
Right.
And then I was talking to one of the guys that was staying at the campsite, same campsite as me, and just sharing this experience that I was feeling.
Mm,
And he said, "Hey, just like, what do you actually want to do?" I was like, "I love the outdoors. I love hiking, all that stuff." And he was like, "Just look up jobs doing that and just start applying to them." And
um,
that was the first time I was like, "Why didn't I think of that myself?" Like, I can't believe I didn't even like, yeah, yeah, can't believe I did not think of that myself. And
and then you saw Ultimate Hikes and you were let's
got
do it.
this job. Yeah, I searched like hiking guiding companies and then I just applied to all of them. And then I got this job. So I feel pretty lucky. I applied pretty last minute. They yeah, they hired me very last minute. So
It does sound like you have a lot of the qualifications they might be looking for though, so I think they
yeah.
were kinda happy with you and your profile.
Yeah. I feel like this job was made for me in a sense. I'm just like, I love it. I just really like it. And I've heard that other people haven't in the past.
Yeah, I mean, I've never seen it work. I literally maybe know 30% of what you do because from what you
Yeah.
talk about, but I have no idea what you actually do. But I would I feel like this job is made for you just because of the
Mm,
way it makes you feel and it makes you talk about it. And um that's so that's kind of for me, it's yeah, it's always difficult to word that in the correct way because I know that I also like I'm very privileged in all sorts of things, however you want to look at it. And I know that a lot of people just have to do things for money, and that is a reality. But for me, I just always feel like no one should, or rather for me personally, I would never do a job that I wouldn't like. So I kind of try not to put myself in a position where I have to do a job that I don't like. And if I am in that position, trying to quit it as soon as possible. I know that that's a very ideal way of thinking of it, and
Mhm.
the realities of life don't allow that for everyone. But that's kind of my idea of a job. If I'm looking for a job, it should have these attributes. It should excite me. It should be something that I would want to do. Obviously, it's also a job. Like
Mhm.
there's always to everything that you get paid for, there's an element to it. There's a reason why you get paid.
Yeah.
So it is a job essentially, but it should definitely be something you're genuinely excited about. And maybe something for me as well, a big part of a lot of or all the jobs actually that I did is that I can learn something from it, that I can
Mhm.
grow in it, that it's maybe a little bit outside of my comfort zone and that it pushes me in that respect. So yeah, that's kind of where I go for a job. And yeah, it sounds like you definitely found a good job here. I just went so off track. I forgot the question I wanted to ask.
It's okay. I do. Um, I did make a vow to myself a few years ago that I would never do a job that I dread going into every day of my life. I feel like that's very similar to you, where you're like, I need to get out of it immediately, like as soon as
Yeah,
possible. Yeah, yeah. It just affects so much of your life, and it affects outside of your life too. If your job is that like negative for you, yeah.
yeah, I and again, there are circumstances why some jobs are good, and even just for a time, it makes a lot of sense to do these jobs. But um, I'm actually thinking of if I feel like I said it on the podcast, but if not, I'm saying it now. When I was in Christchurch, I had like no, I definitely talked about it. I think I had a second job in a pasta factory, while I was managing the hostel that I was working in Christchurch for part time. So I kind of got a second job just to save up money. So it
Mhm.
definitely made sense. Like I had the why. Um, but it just I didn't enjoy it at all. And obviously I went through with it because I was like, it's only 4 months. It
Yes.
gives me the money to later on travel. But while I was working there, like you said, like my life definitely lost quality just
Mhm.
because I can't just go in there and say, okay, now I'm done with the job. Now back to my free time. No, it definitely affects you afterwards as well. So, um, yeah, if someone's in a job like that for a longer time, it's definitely not ideal.
Yeah, you need your recovery time, and then your recovery time is your time off. It just kind of snowballs a little bit, doesn't it? It builds up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, funnily enough, the thing about a hiking job was that that wasn't on my radar as well. Like, um, it makes so much sense, especially here in Queenstown with all these great walks and everything. But yeah, that wasn't even like on the list of things. I was like, oh, what is a possible job? Like
Mhm.
that never occurred. And then when I started at the hostel here, and they were like, oh yeah, we're actually housing like guides for these guided walks. I was like, oh, that sounds cool. And um, I actually just overheard the other girls in the kitchen, literally just now, talking about how they were looking into other jobs and they just kind of Googled hiking jobs. Japan on Mount Fuji, you can
Yes.
do guided walks. Europe, in the French Alps, stuff like that. And it's crazy, like the opportunities that
Mhm.
there are. Like if you kind of, like you said, like, oh, I'm into hiking. Maybe someone who's into, I don't know. Yeah, I don't have an example. Has into swimming with dolphins. No, just Google it and see what comes up. Maybe there is a job out there.
Yeah. Don't put limits on yourself. Yeah. I think I was talking about that the other day when someone called me. a super sporty person who can do all these things. And I was like, 3 years ago, I couldn't. I couldn't do like a
Mm,
headstand and a handstand and all these somersaults and like slacklining and all these things that I've picked up in
right.
the last few years. And I was like, I just stopped putting limits on myself. I just stopped telling myself that I couldn't do it. And I started hitting these goals. And I think that's really important. It's really cool. Yeah.
Definitely. Because
Mhm.
I mean, definitely, definitely. I'm
Yeah.
so passionate about stuff like that for real because at the end, and it might sound harsh, but and obviously it's oversimplified, but at the end of the day, no one cares about you. Like
Yes.
if you're sitting there and saying I can't do it, like no one will care. So you're basically just limiting yourself.
Mhm.
You're the one that's taking away opportunities. It's everyone else is waiting out there for you to go, yeah, I can do it. Okay, here's the opportunity. But if you sit by yourself and you say, well, I can't do it anyway, like no one will approach you because
Yeah.
no one will. And that might not be completely true because sometimes opportunities do arise and sometimes we just need people to pick us up as well. And that's the thing.
Mm.
Definitely is. But in general, yeah, people have a lot more interest in their own life and their own success than they have maybe in your success. So you should be the one who is pushing forward that and just if you're interested in something, do it.
Do it. Yeah.
And
Just do
like
it.
and literally do it and don't be afraid to look like an idiot because you will. Like if you start something new, obviously you're not gonna be a master. Everyone started out
Yeah.
uh
You don't have to be good at your hobbies is something that I always tell myself. 'Cause I'm a huge mantra person. We were talking
right.
about earlier. I guess I'm a big mantra person in like all aspects of my life. Like I have like things that I always tell myself. Like uh yeah, don't put limits on yourself. And like all food is good food. Like don't put moral
Mm,
yeah, morality onto food. And I have like yeah, like nobody cares was one of my mantras for a long time. Especially to like get through like anxiety and stuff that a lot of people have growing up.
yeah.
And I remember one day it just clicked and it was like one of my friends said that. They were like, uh, can't remember what happened. It was something embarrassing. And then all of a sudden I was just like, wait, I'm the only one that cares about this. Like who cares? And then it was just like a switch flicked in my brain and it changed everything. Like, mantras I think are so powerful for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also again always feel um like I told you, probably me at 24 wouldn't have said all these things.
Mm.
Maybe I would have even if I heard you say them, be like, yeah, yeah, whatever, Katie. You know,
Yeah.
it's always easier spoken than actually because I feel like a lot of these things you really have to maybe go through some experiences. It's just part of everyone's journey and and you really have to, again, it all starts with you, and you really have to go you through your journey. You have to think it through for yourself,
Mm.
and no one else can make you at the end of the day. Like it helps hear other people's stories, and I mean that's part of why I do what I do as well because I feel like hearing these stories might be well at the least entertaining and at the best inspirational to some people. So
Mm.
um that's why I always love to have conversations like these. Um, but at the end of the day, you have to do that step, and if you're not ready to take that step yet, I also understand why you maybe can't. So yeah, for me, it just yeah, I just know from my own experience, it's a journey. You have to get there yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Everybody has their own things, their own ways of working through things and figuring out what works for you as well in your journey. It's fascinating.
Um, one thing that I actually uh, found super interesting in your mantras, and I want to go into that because you are a chef.
Okay, yeah.
Is all food is good food.
Interesting,
Like
yeah.
because that's
Yeah,
something that I could probably not talk to a lot of people about, and I feel like
true.
having you here. What does that mean to you personally? Like, can you
Mm,
elaborate on that?
yeah. I guess I think it's a lot, yeah, I grew up I had a lot of eating disorders growing up.
Mm,
Yeah, that definitely goes a lot deeper than you probably thought.
yes.
But, um but I think like most people went through a lot of eating disorders,
Mm,
and that was a big one where I was like, "Oh, that food's bad. That food's bad for me," like putting moral judgment onto food,
right.
um, which then makes it seem like I can't have it, and I think that, like, if I can't have it, you want it more, and then it was just a vicious cycle of, like, can't have it, and then you binge eat, and then you purge, and then you starve yourself, and then it's like this, like, cycle anyways. And these mantras have gotten me through it, like, all food is good food, to take that off. And I think, like, food is fuel, and I had a few other ones as well. Now I'm fully recovered now. I just wanna make that clear. Come a long way. It was a very
Yeah.
long journey, like you said. Yeah. Everyone has their personal journeys. Mhm. Yeah.
Nice.
But as a chef, the way I view food is definitely different than back then. 'Cause I think now I'm more okay with putting, like, lots of oil or sugar or,
Mm,
that kind of stuff in my food because I know that it's it's good for you in some way, and I think that, yeah, all food is good food in some way. Like, I always
right.
like, I'm sure you've heard me in the kitchen say, like, "Oh, it's good for your soul. The food is good for my
Mm,
soul." Some's Yeah, some's good for the soul, some is good for the body, and yeah. I say it's some food is nutritious and some food is not as nutritious, and that's okay. That's okay. Yeah.
and I guess a big part of it is also um, knowing how to use it properly, like
Mm,
using it in a way that it, well, yeah, whatever it is you're trying to add to the food, that it actually adds that component to the food as well. Because I feel like maybe the things you mentioned, you can also overdo them to an
yes.
extent. So it's kind of having that knowledge to how to properly like incorporate it into the food probably helps with feeling good and using it
Mm.
and putting it.
I used to watch a lot of cooking shows growing up.
Mm,
I used to love, like, the Food Channel in Canada, and I just remember watching all these competitions where they would, like, bake cupcakes, and they'd be like, "Oh, there's lavender in these cupcakes," to the judges, and the judges would be like, "Can't taste the lavender, you didn't put enough in." And I remember I still think about those kind of scenarios back in the day where I'm like, "Oh, I need to put enough in that you can, like, taste the difference, but not
mm,
too much where it overpowers." And there's, like, a delicate balance, especially with some ingredients, like lavender. Put too much in, it's horrible, but yeah, a lot of things are like that. Mhm.
um, let's throw a random chef question in
Yeah,
there.
crazy.
What's your favorite food to prepare?
To prepare.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's a that's a really hard question. Question I get asked very often, actually.
Yeah,
Yeah,
probably. A lot of people have
probably.
thought of that question.
Yeah, yeah. I think, well, my favorite cuisine is Mexican food.
Okay.
Yeah, my old head chef was Mexican, and he
Mm,
taught me so much about cooking, and yeah, learned a lot from him. And I think my favorite thing to cook at the moment is probably these like Mexican tacos, like
mm,
with black bean and corn and potato, and then you cook them in like chili and stuff. And
mm.
getting hungry.
Yes. And I just had dinner.
Yeah, you just had your cheese on bread with the ham.
Yes.
Yes, the same as every night.
I just feel like we come full circle because a few episodes, well, when this comes out, it's actually like maybe 8 episodes or so before,
Mm.
Sophie, uh, because I just had my lunch before the episode, so everyone
The
knows
tuna
about
salad,
the tuna
tuna
pasta.
pasta salad. Sorry, tuna pasta.
There's no salad that makes it sound
There's
so
no
healthy.
salad. No.
Yeah, and now everyone knows about the dinner as well, so
Oh,
that's my
great! There you go. So now everyone on your podcast knows your two meals. Yeah,
yes.
love it.
But they will probably change when I get to Australia because I have to adapt to the market situation there and see if maybe
True.
they have other stuff that's cheap.
Do you think there's comfort in knowing what you're going to eat every day? Oh, I think we have talked about this before. Yeah.
Um, wow. Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
we have talked
Yeah.
about it.
True.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I know that I definitely have talked about it with someone.
Mm.
Um, but I definitely feel uh, there's comfort. I mean, I am super lucky that I genuinely don't get bored. Like,
Mm,
I genuinely, um, never look at it and be like, "Ugh, I need to eat it." Like, I feel like I found things that I genuinely enjoy eating, so I'm kinda happy in that way, because for me, um, it really frees up my headspace. Like, maybe stupid as that sounds, but it's like one less or two less decisions, and by me not eating breakfast, there's a third one that, just falls off, that as well. So it's just things that I don't need to think about. I'm a very like routine person per se. Like I like to establish a routine. And then on the flip side, it's also once that is established, it's very difficult for me to incorporate new things into it. But once the routine is kind of established, yeah, it gives me a sort of relief on knowing, well, I kind of have these things in my day that bring me forward in whatever aspects it is at the moment that I'm trying to go forward. And with the food as well, I kind of, especially with the pasta, look to have like sort of all kind of macronutrients in there. Like I have my protein, I have my vegetables, and then I have my pasta because I like it. So that's that
yeah.
one's just for me. And with the dinner, I also try to get the eggs in there, and then yeah, the toast, ham and cheese is just yeah, I like. It. So, but yeah, so I kind of decided on these things, and yeah, for myself, it takes away a lot of things where I would be like, "Oh, well, what should I buy today?" Or rather, "What should I prepare today?" But then also when it's time to go grocery shopping, it takes me like 5 to 10 minutes to grocery shop. 'Cause I buy the
Mm,
same things every time.
yeah.
Like, I know exactly what I need to get. I never vary. Sometimes I put the occasional Reese's, into there, like a little little sweet snack,
Yeah.
but yeah, I really don't vary like that. So, like, my day-to-day kind of things just get more streamlined, and my grocery shopping takes less time. I don't need to think about
Mm.
things. For me, it's a quite good feeling.
I really, really admire that. I wish I was, um, I guess I used to be like that. I used to eat oatmeal like every day,
Mm,
sometimes for every meal in a day. I did that for like years.
right.
Yeah, like a year or 2, and then all of a sudden one day it was just like, "Oh, I actually hate oatmeal now." And I miss it. I miss having a meal that I could depend on.
Mm,
Just having like something easy and it's always there and you always know you're gonna want it. And it's just yeah, it's so comforting. And it does make a huge difference in how you see your day. It changes so much. It's yeah, all that mental energy you can use
yeah,
in other places. Yeah.
definitely.
Mhm.
Um, so I guess if you heard the prepare question, if I ask you what's your favorite dish to eat, you probably heard that question a bunch of times as well.
That one less so, but
Right.
but yes, I have heard it a little bit. It's also a really hard answer. Right now, I feel like I'm kind of in between things for
Mm,
eating. It's like a really tricky time. You know, you said you never get bored of things, so I guess you wouldn't relate to this, but maybe other people will. When I get really, sometimes I'll get obsessed with a food, and then I'll get really tired of it, and then but then I'm already tired of all my previous obsession foods. So then I'm kind of like in this limbo where it's like,
mm.
I don't want to eat anything. Actually, not in the bad way, just in the way that's like,
It
oh, I don't know what to eat. And
Nothing
it's like,
sparks excitement.
yeah, nothing sparks this. Eating is more like a chore right now than
Mm,
it is anything. And hopefully that changes soon because I've definitely been feeling a little bit of creative burnout in the kitchen at work. Definitely been relying on just things I've made before, and I'm like I don't want to think of new things right now, like cooking wise. It's I hit a bit
right.
of a slump, and that's kind of new for me. So I'm still kind of navigating that. Yeah.
So, well, I guess I'm kind of interested because two aspects. One, because maybe if I'm completely honest, parts of why I have my two dishes is also that I would never call myself like a person who genuinely enjoys cooking in the sense that you maybe kind of refer to it right now. Like
Mm.
you're in the kitchen, you want to experiment with things, put some new stuff together, put some spices. I have friends that love that, in Portugal, my best friend, he's from Belgium. Shout out to Lydia. Um, he always invited us to dinners to his place. Um, he was like, "Yeah, just come on, guys. I want to cook for you." And then we were in the kitchen, drinking some wine. He was preparing the food, and it was like this whole thing. And I mean, it was amazing. And for him, he enjoyed it as well because he like got to chat with us. He would have cooked for himself either way, so he's cooking for like the whole
Mhm.
crew, crew, a group that was like a mixture of group and crew. He's like cooking for everyone, and I always kind of felt like that's a cool thing to have. I wish I would be more like that in the kitchen, kind
Mm.
of experimenting more, like discovering new things just by throwing things together and then be like, "Oh, that's actually pretty cool?" Um, and so that's kind of what I'm curious if that's something that you experience as well. And then also because you being a professional chef, if that uh, takes away from it, if that's something you do in your job already and you get
Mhm.
back home, does that influence something? So did you have that joy for cooking?
Oh, yeah, totally, yeah. I think it really depends day to day.
Mm,
Sometimes I can get really inspired from the kitchen and, like, since I'm vegetarian,
mm,
if I'm cooking a meat dish at work and it's, like, one of the recipes that the lodge provides, I'll be like, "How can I make that vegetarian?" And I'll, like, think of new creative ways to,
mm,
like, make it vegetarian, like, at home, uh, and that can be super fun, but there's also the flip side where you're making new food all the time and you're, um, often trying quite fancy food too, like in a professional kitchen, not so much in
right.
this job, where it's like at the end of the day, you just want a toasty. Like,
Mm,
you're like, "I'm sick of trying all this fancy food and I'm sick of like, yeah, all these flavors and stuff. It's just I want something comforting and easy." And
right.
also, I find that on my off days, I just don't wanna cook. Like
That
and I'm like, I just do it every other day.
that's kind of what I thought would happen,
Yeah.
right? Because it's you're always you're always cooking. So
Yeah. I think cooking for myself can get tiring, but I still often love cooking for groups of people or, like,
mhm,
for other people. But when it's just me, I I kinda call it a lot of the
yeah.
time. Yeah. And so have all my, like, chefs in the past as well. Like, a lot of my head chefs would also partake in the toasty after work.
Um, I mean, I don't mean to like pick your brain too much about the whole chefing thing, but you're the first chef I got on here, so
Mm.
please forgive me.
No, go for it.
And I mean, you did kind of hint at it, and I feel like it's not a big hidden secret that chef or basically working in kitchen or hospitality in general can be or is a very stressful job. It just comes
Mhm.
with the environment. Um, so and not really knowing your personal aspirations for the future, but what excites you about the job as a chef to like still pursue it? Because I mean, everyone kind of probably knows, not to the extent because if you've never done it, you don't know how exactly, but
Mm.
it's like, yeah, it's gonna be stressful and still and I have friends as well, back in Germany as well that love their job, they just hate their job environment, if you can put it like that.
Yes.
So what makes you still pursue this job and what is still exciting about excelling in that job to you?
Yeah, that's a really good question. This job in particular, I wasn't actually going to pursue chefing anymore after my last job
Mm,
because, like I said, it was, like, the worst time in my life.
yeah.
Um, and yeah, I was like, my last job, I was really lucky to have a really great kitchen staff, like, I was the sous chef there, and my head chef was just amazing, so wonderful, and we were all, like, just good friends. There was no yelling in the kitchen at all.
Mhm.
Like, we would, like, sing goofy songs every time it was
Oh,
stressful.
nice.
Yeah, and it was just such a good environment, except the job was still stressful, which is like,
Right.
um, because it's still like the orders are coming in and you need to get it done, and it's like it just all of a sudden it'll get crazy. So I wasn't going to pursue chefing anymore. I was going to call it as a job, and and then this job was a little bit different because you're batch cooking for people,
Mm,
so it's not like per plate, which is usually why it's pretty stressful.
right.
And and I could be creative, a little bit more creative. Mm. And also it just feels like the kitchen that I work in right now is kinda like a community center kinda feel.
Mm,
So it's like a big open kitchen and like a big open living room. It just feels like a house. So it feels like I'm
right.
cooking dinner for a bunch of people,
Mm.
yeah, at a house.
It's like you
And
just have friends over and you're just cooking.
exactly, yeah. And then half my job is also walking, hiking.
Yeah.
So that really takes it out a little bit. And yeah, so I think I'm unsure if I'm gonna pursue it in the future. Uh, I think I'm leaning more towards not pursuing it. I think I'm gonna keep it as a hobby. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And with what we discussed, it's might be the best if you do have a passion for it, which you obviously do,
Mm,
which we hear, and how you talk about it as well. It might be a good thing to keep it as a passion, so to not lose the passion while you're doing it as a
yes.
job.
It's so easy to lose passion when you do something for a job. I also used to I'm an artist, and
Mm,
I used to sell my art online as well. And I did that for quite a while. I did pet portraits. And
nice.
then I started hating drawing just so much. I was like, "Oh, another pet." And I was like, "This is obviously something that I um shouldn't do with my hobby." Like I feel like Canada's a little different from New Zealand and Germany, where if I tell someone I have a hobby, all like the common answer I would get is like, "Oh, you should make this into a business." I don't
Yeah.
hear that as much here in New Zealand, which I appreciate, which is really good. But but yeah, that's what I did with my passions in the past, and it's definitely not been a good idea. So keep it keep my hobbies and my work a little bit more separate, I think.
Um, no, I love that about New Zealand as well. In Germany, to be honest, it would be more like Canada.
Oh,
They would
really?
definitely be like, "So how are you planning to monetize that?"
Mm,
Like,
that's surprising.
"Really?"
Yeah. I guess
I
I don't know much about.
well, I mean, we're not at all, capitalist country, especially compared with well, I don't know Canada isn't so much, but
Mm,
especially compared to the United States, obviously, we wouldn't be
yes.
considered capitalist at all. But the German mentality is pretty much, you kinda well, it's very career orientated. So meaning that work is basically your life. You know that saying how you should work to live? In Germany, people live to work.
Mm,
And so that kind of doesn't leave that much room for hobbies and passions. So maybe it's a different reason for why they do it in Canada, but that's kind of what would spark that response in Germany is, oh, but if you're doing something, you're investing a lot of time in some things, it should be your career.
mm,
Kind of because that's how the mentality kind of goes. Because your main focus in your life should always be on your career. That's kind of the German mentality. To be fair, I haven't lived there for like 5 or 6 years.
mhm.
So especially with the younger generation, it might have changed. But when I was going to school and going to university, that was definitely the thing that was imprinted on us.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, one thing that you definitely can't mention on this podcast without me asking a question about it is saying I used to be an artist because that definitely sparks interest in me.
Yes.
So, yeah, you said you painted portraits. Again, a lot of my questions are going to be about motivation because,
Mhm.
yeah, I just really, I'm always interested in how did you get started in that? Why that particular art? Like, what excites you about? painting and then
Mm,
portraits in
portraits, yeah.
particular.
Well, I did, like, people portraits for a
Mm,
long time. I think that's it used to be one of my favorite things to draw. I don't know, there's just something so fun about it. I think it's really interesting, and there's a lot you can do with it, and, uh, yeah, at the point right now, I draw more, like, cartoony little,
mm.
um, landscapes and, like, full drawings, but what motivates you? That's a really good question. I realize I didn't really answer it. Um, hmm, I'm not quite sure. There's something so like I don't think your interests. I don't think you choose your interests. I think your interests choose you. Do you
Mm,
know what I mean by that? Like you said, you really wish you had a passion for cooking, and
right.
but you but you don't,
No,
and
I
you
get
didn't.
I
I
get
feel
what
like
you're saying.
you didn't choose that. Yeah, yeah, and I feel that the same way about a lot of things where I'm like, oh, I wish I was really interested in that, but I just can't. Like every time I try to learn it, I just can't. I
Right.
just don't pick it up, or I don't like. I lose interest.
No,
Yeah.
that definitely makes sense. But I always feel like there's specific things, and you kind of said, yeah, it's fun for you to draw people
Mhm.
because yeah, thinking back when I was like starting to listening to music and I heard like growing up, obviously I heard my parents' music playing in the house the whole time. And then when I started getting my own, yes, I'm old, Walkman, like a like a CD player, that you could like portable CD player. Um,
Yeah.
and then eventually I got an MP3 player. Yes, that was a thing as well. And then eventually I got an iPod, which probably some people don't even know what that is anymore. Um, but anyway, when I started to listen to my own music, when I had like this Walkman, this portable CD player, I started to listen to hip hop music because that was just what I was personally interested in. It wasn't the music that my parents listened to at all. So yeah, it was kind of I probably couldn't tell you why I initially like was interested in hip hop, but I just know that by listening to it, I was very intrigued just by language, by the usage of language, of finding like intelligent ways and like kind of word playing ways to portray messages and kind of how you can powerfully put your message out there where it's maybe also a little bit provocative. And I was
Mhm.
just very intrigued. Maybe while other people were more like, oh, the beats are good. And for me, I knew that it was always kind of the lyrical side of it. And I was really into like the things you can do with language. And that's
Mhm.
what fascinated me about it. So um when you said you did portraits, is that kind of like a realistic style as well? Like you were trying to be very realistic in the portrait?
Yeah, I would call it surrealism. Like I was doing like realism but stylized.
Mm,
Yeah, yeah. I guess some people would call it realism. Yeah, and then with the pet portraits, I was doing realism as well. Yeah,
right.
but I've moved away from that. I've moved to like a way more stylized approach of drawing, and yeah, I think I like it a lot more than the realism. I think it took longer to learn than realism, to be honest. I think
Mm,
realism took a couple of years to get down, and then my stylized drawing is still a work in progress, and it's been like 10 years of drawing. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I and like drawing was one of the things that I just never had the patience for, to be honest.
Mm,
Like, how people just say, yeah, I can't draw. I used to be one of those people for a long time. And then when I realized, well, it's a skill you can learn, I
mhm.
just quickly realized that I'm too impatient to learn that skill.
I think you have
Uh,
to learn with what you wanna draw first. Like, just, like, start copying drawings that you like. Yeah, and then and
right.
slowly you'll get it. Um I think drawing is something if you pick it up as an adult, you can see pretty fast progress,
Really?
pretty consistently. Mhm. Yeah, I've seen some of my peers pick up drawing in the recent years. Like
Mm,
my older sister picked up drawing when she was 24, my age.
right.
And I'd say she's so good at it now. And it's only been like 2 or 3 years. Like, just got to be, yeah,
Wow.
consistent. Just got to put your whole mind into it and see what happens. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe you should give it another go. Just
Maybe.
maybe if it's something fun for you.
I mean, yeah, I remember a time where I just was drawing mushrooms for days.
Yeah.
It just but it literally just came out as like these, like two-dimensional,
Yes.
just like black and white mushrooms, basically just drawing the surroundings. And I was like, how can I make this more realistic? I was like,
Yeah.
that just, yeah, I probably wasn't in the mindset where I was like fully able to learn. So I was just kind of like,
Oh, I heard someone say that when you're learning to draw, your eye learns faster than your hands do. So when you're thinking, when you think of an idea to draw and then you draw it and it's not what you're picturing.
yeah,
So it's like your eye can tell that the drawing isn't what you want it to be before you can actually draw. If that makes sense. No, it doesn't look like
well,
that.
well, it kind of makes sense, but
Like, you learn how to see a drawing is wrong faster than you learn how to fix it,
yeah,
I guess.
yeah, because that
Wrong is a
sounds
bad
like
word.
it's
It's
not. It's. I mean, I think I know what you're saying, but it doesn't sound like it's helping me. And I just
it's
realized
not.
quicker that my drawing.
Yeah, but then I guess it just helps to be aware of that. That'll
Right.
happen, and then you'd be like,
Yeah,
"Oh, I'm a shit artist, but it's okay. It'll get better. This is part of the process.
right.
Don't have to be good at your hobbies." Like,
Exactly.
yeah. Mhm.
um. So yeah, the point I was trying to make though, is that I feel like, and it kind of plays to what you were just saying as well. Maybe you should just start copying things. So I feel like what you were saying about the realism being easier to learn than the stylized, I feel like that's where that comes from, because realist, you're basically just learning to copy reality,
Yes.
copying what you see and trying to do that in the best way you can, but you're essentially like recreating what's already there. And if you're trying to develop an own style, that's basically a lot more. There's a lot more expression in that as well, right? You
Mhm.
want to like, and I don't know, I'm just saying these things without actually, ever having drawn, but I feel like it might be you really want to express yourself in the style that you're trying to cultivate in a way.
Mhm.
So to find that where you, and then maybe also because it is a skill, maybe finding out new ways. Oh, I can do it this way, and maybe that's part of it too. So I can definitely see how that takes a lot more time to learn, because
Mhm.
it's more than just copying reality.
Yes, totally. 100%. Especially getting like an accurate image from your brain to the paper takes so long to get. And yeah, developing your own style is like such a process. It's like a lifelong process, really. And it's yeah,
Mm,
interesting. Mm. Yeah, I feel like you naturally tend to draw like your style ends up being what you like. So I find that
right.
if that makes sense. I feel like that might be obvious. But when I was like younger and looking at pictures online of what I wanted to draw, like when I was like, oh, I wish I drew like this. And then that would like eventually it would be like form more into what I kind of drew like, if that makes
Mm,
sense. Yeah. Mm.
yeah. So right now, you would definitely say. I mean, it's yeah, no, it's the question doesn't make a lot of sense, because you basically already answered it. But you're very, and I don't want to be that person that you just criticize, but no, I'm just actually curious and painting the picture
Mhm.
of your life. So you're at a point where you are very content with drawing as your hobby, and that's basically you're
Yes.
very happy to be able to use that just for yourself to, um, yeah, be artistic for yourself, use it in your own way.
Yes. Yes, I am. Yeah. And it's come a long way since I started my business selling my art. I was like, it put me through a big artist slump. I feel like I've gone through a few of those. And
Mm.
um, even when I was younger, I remember my first artist slump was like a week long, and I was like, oh, I'm going through a block. And then
Right.
I got older, and then it was like a month long was my next one. And then I got older, and it was like 6 months was my next one. And I feel
Mhm.
like, yeah, they've just gotten longer between slumps. Like I just had recently 2 or 3 long period where I just could not create. And when you when you're not in the right mindset to create new things, you often end up creating uninspired things. And then they'll not
Mhm.
be to your standards or to your liking because you won't put everything into it. And I remember in those like 2 or 3 years, everything I created, I looked at it, I was like, I don't like this. Like I've forgotten how to draw or like all this stuff. I'm like, ah, I've
Mm.
lost it. But then all of a sudden I come to New Zealand and I'm like, start traveling again and start seeing new things. And then like inspiration just to hit again. And it was the end of the slump. And yeah. Yeah. Anyways, very content with where I am right now with drawing. Yeah.
Do you and yeah, I mean, a lot of people just when I ask this question probably know my opinion on the topic, but do you feel that travel helps with creativity as well?
Oh, 100%. Totally. You're like, "Thank God," you're nodding, you're like, "Thank God you have the same opinion."
Well, I
Like, I
kind of
agree. Well,
expected it
yeah, of
to,
course,
though.
yeah. You're like, "Yes, yes, yes." Yeah. Um, yeah, no, I've noticed a huge difference in my level of creativity after starting to travel again,
Yeah.
especially since I started, um, like, not just traveling, but I find that hiking and reconnecting with nature,
Right.
because it wasn't I would say when I hiked part of the TA a few months ago,
Mm.
the trail that goes across New Zealand, all the way across New Zealand for people that don't know. And I hiked 3 weeks of it, and that's when I got out of my slump. I was like,
Yeah.
in the bush in the middle of nowhere, just like my little pencil and paper that I borrowed from one of the people I was hiking with because I didn't bring one because I was not
Mm.
thinking about drawing. And then I just started creating every night, just these really great inspired pieces for the first time in years. And it was like nature does so much to help. And yeah, I think I think humans aren't meant to be in cities. And yeah, there's a huge disconnect, I think, these days between people and like our natural state. If yeah.
I feel like you're secretly listening to my podcast, even though you tell me you're not, because that's actually another topic that I am also very passionate about, and I
Mhm,
couldn't agree more.
mhm.
And to be honest, I feel like most of these conversations may actually have happened on my online format that I do, like with the people that I talk to over the laptop. We had some very interesting conversations about that. But yeah, I definitely feel like connecting with nature is so important. Um, obviously, w- again, I, as I'm sitting here with my ideal mind, would also say, yeah, we don't need cities, but in the system that we obviously have,
Yeah.
we do need cities in a sense. But I feel like you can definitely, you can feel if people are like really living inner city and they don't really get out and have that connection with nature. I feel like that definitely that's something to a person.
Yeah, I lived in Toronto for 2 years before I came to New Zealand, and I'm from a small town in Saskatchewan, Canada,
Gotcha.
usual Saskatchewan, and, it's definitely a city, but it's like a small city, and I was definitely more connected with outdoors, and it was
Mm,
quieter. Toronto was loud and busy and, quite polluted, and even the
right.
green spaces within the city were still quite loud, you could still hear the traffic, and
Mm,
I remember having a really big toll on me and, yeah, my creativity and all this stuff.
yeah.
And the first trip I took outside of Toronto for like 10 days, and I went and volunteered on a nearby island and
Oh,
did like trail maintenance and like conservation,
nice.
outreach, all sorts of fun stuff. And then I came back to Toronto on the bus with everybody, and I felt it in my body coming back into Toronto. I was like, why does my chest feel tight? And
Mm,
like, why do I feel like all anxious all of a sudden? And I'm like, is that how I always feel like in Toronto? And that's kind of when I
Uh,
realized that's also when I realized I wanted to quit my job as a chef.
mm,
I quit on that trip. I was like, "Oh, I don't think I want to do this anymore." Um, and then I got a job working outdoors. I worked at a nature camp with kids.
mm.
Um, and then yeah, did a few other outdoor jobs. It just made me realize that it was living in a city was not meant for me, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I feel like told this story like on one of the other podcasts as well. But for me, it's always and the most recent experience I had was obviously on the Milford track when I
Mm,
did the guided Milford track for 5 days, which is only 5 days on paper because two of them is you sitting on the bus. But um,
yeah, true.
anyway, while I was on there, and especially then because I had started the podcast and obviously all this technology gives us like it gives us good things too if you know how to use them and use them in a way um yeah that do good rather than evil.
Of course.
It definitely has good things as well. But every time I've been in nature for a longer time, and the most recent one being on the Milford, every time I'm in there, I'm like, well, this is life. Like this is a life. Why do we choose to not live this life, but we live the life back in the cities? Why do we choose to? And I know this is gonna sound again a lot like very idealized and stuff, but why do we subscribe to the watch? Why does the
Mm,
watch govern me? Why do I need why do I need a watch? You know, the
mhm,
sun goes goes up. I know. Oh, I can see it now. Oh, sun goes down. Oh, maybe I should sleep. You know, and every time I'm in nature, I kind of feel that there's another way to live here. Like there's something going on.
I actually had such a crazy experience. If anyone knows Outward Bound, do you know Outward Bound?
Oh,
I've talked about them a little bit. They're like an outdoor, um, hiking guide company. They're
right.
pretty global, but in Canada, the government funded me to go on this 14-day hiking trip with them,
Oh, cool.
and it's about, like, pushing boundaries. It's not the same as ultimate hikes. There's no lodges. They gave us
Mm,
tarps that we had to set up every night, and we weren't allowed toilet paper.
all right.
Yeah, had to use rocks and moss, and yeah, and a part of this, they did a 48-hour solo where we were by ourselves for 48 hours, and I chose to leave any watch and phone behind for this
Mm,
whole time, and it was such a crazy experience because you like, I had no idea what time it was. I didn't need to know what time it was, but it still kinda, like, worried me in a sense sometimes where I was like, "Wait, what time is it?" It's like, "It doesn't matter. It doesn't
ex-
matter." Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, but it was a really cool experience. Yeah.
That actually sounds great.
Yeah.
And so I haven't heard of them. So they basically do that for like children, teenagers, adults, all
Oh,
everyone.
yeah. Yeah, they have one in New Zealand too, Outward Bound New Zealand. They do,
Oh,
like, yeah, 14-day, 30-day, 60-day trips even.
oh, really? Like it
Yeah.
goes up to 60 days.
Yes, it's pretty intense. Like, they're all about pushing boundaries and trying to, um, yeah, push you out of your comfort zone.
Kind of sounds very yeah, I mean there's definitely that aspect to it. And
Yes.
I'm not blind to that because yeah, I did the ultimate hikes experience. Obviously,
Mhm,
every night I knew if it rains, that's why I enjoy why maybe I could enjoy it as well. Like it
mhm,
was raining all day and I was like, yeah, yeah, I'm in the rainforest. Yes, it rains. But I
yes.
knew I was coming to a lodge. I knew I could have a warm shower. You know,
Mhm.
I knew I had all these things. So I'm definitely not blind to the aspect of just putting yourself completely into like nature and being basically at nature's will.
Yeah, with the
Um,
bears
that's a
too.
thing in Canada too,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, but so that's definitely an aspect of it. But
Mhm.
to me, it just really sounds so meditative as well. I feel like this, yeah. just feels like there's no way that cannot end up being a profound experience. Like it has to be if you're in nature for that long, um,
Mhm.
and just making sure you survive in nature. Well, that sounds pretty drastic, but you know,
Yeah.
like, if-
Hopefully everyone survives. I think that's
yeah.
I think that's maybe the bare minimum. Maybe.
But yeah, for me, it sounds like an experience where you definitely are left with your thoughts, and I feel like it can really have a positive impact on you, an experience like that.
Yeah, totally. I think a lot of people have, very varying experiences out of it. We had some pretty intense moments on our trip.
Mm.
Um, they I also didn't know this at the time, but before they went on, they barred anyone that had any sort of addictions on the trip,
Mm,
which sounds very, like, controversial at first, but then when we were on the trip, we found out one person on our trip, microdosed mushrooms before she came on, and she
right.
quit when she was on the trip, and she had not a great time,
Mm,
as you can probably imagine, and then that's when I realized how important it was to kinda, um phase out those people because it can really they also didn't have the people there, the trained people. Sorry, so Outward Bound
mm,
has, like, completely separate trips that they do for people with addictions as well, where they kinda, like, rehab them, and they have trained
um,
professionals there, but
right.
not the group we were in, so, um, yeah, I think everyone had a really positive experience, and it really changed my mindset about so many things, especially that's when I first realized that you can be a hiking guide, like, as that's
Mm,
the first time I realized that I could, like, pursue that as a career.
right.
And it's when I started kind of really pushing for it. Yeah. Started not limiting myself to what jobs I could do. Like, I think before that I was working customer service and stuff. I
Mm,
think I worked customer service for way too long. For years of my life, I was like, oh my God. Looking back on it, I'm like, I could have stopped way earlier than I did. I don't know.
but
Yeah. Woulda,
then
coulda, shoulda. Yeah.
then again, if you would have quit earlier, you probably wouldn't be here right now.
Exactly.
Everything
Everything
happens for a
happens
reason.
for a reason. Yeah. That's one of my favorite things. Yeah. So I say woulda, coulda, shoulda. Yeah.
I
Um,
feel like I said that almost every episode. Everything happens for a reason, but that's what I
mm,
believe in.
yeah, it's something very important to you, obviously. Yeah, I thought about that too with I was traveling before COVID and then COVID brought me home. I had to get like an emergency flight home and it really
Mm,
derailed what I thought my life was going to be at the moment because I thought I was going to be
right.
full-time traveling across the world. Um, and then yeah, COVID. And And when I got back to Canada, it was, like, so crazy, everything was quarantined, but then that's when I went on the 14-day trip out in the wilderness, and then now I look back on COVID, I'm like, "Yeah, it was so hard," but, like, so much changed for me in those years of quarantine, which is great, like, so much for the better, I think. I've, like, really, really grown as a person since then. Yeah. Well, I think yeah, I'm an entirely different person as to who I was before COVID, which is cool.
Yeah, sometimes it is. I mean, it's not one single thing. I don't think that changes us, but it is like just a gradual change, and then at some point you realize, oh, I've undergone this
Yeah.
change. But there's also definitely just things that happen that definitely shape our future as well. So
Mm.
um, especially, yeah, that's why I really find this outward bound thing super interesting. Um, because there is just experiences that take us away also from the things that we just go through every day.
Mhm.
Because sometimes I feel like if you work the same job for 3 years, those 3 years basically equal to one day because you're living that one day or that one week for 3 years, but it's basically just one week that you did, because it's the same thing. And then if you do 14 days in nature, every day is different. So these 14 days might amount to more than 3 years doing and again, very generalized, but
Yes.
I'm just saying, like, it can be like that. Like, some experiences that you do can have that very big effect on you and on your life. I definitely
Yeah,
believe
I've been thinking about that a lot recently, like, especially when I guess I've thought about it when I was working customer service where I was like, "This just feels like a copy from yesterday." Or at the end of the day, you're like, "Oh, gonna go to bed and do it all again tomorrow."
yeah.
Yeah, and Yeah, it does get very monotonous, doesn't it? Yeah.
I mean, I probably told you, I don't know if I did. Like in Portugal, I worked for a call center. So
Mhm.
I started as a customer support agent. But after like a year, they promoted me to trainer, and I basically trained the people coming in on the software on customer service skills. But yeah, I worked in customer service as well. So that's kind of where I can relate because even even as a trainer, it was, and I loved my job as a trainer. It was love to work with people, and I really, that job really helped me grow as well, and just like grow new skills and grow way more patient and all that stuff that I learned from the job. But at the end, you're in this call center environment where every day just feels kind of the same. It feels like a circle. So
Mhm.
and like the work did, the life there definitely didn't always, because I had great friends and everything. And Lisbon is a super beautiful city that everyone should be go to. Portugal is amazing. I might at some point, if I do go back to Europe, maybe Portugal is the country where I'll go back to.
Mm.
Um,
I think that's where I'm gonna go for winter too.
yeah.
It's on my list. It is.
Eh,
Mm.
have you been yet?
No,
Have
I
you
haven't
made it?
been.
No.
No, nowhere in Europe, but I've been really meaning to get some. I really wanna learn surfing. That's my next that's my next
Yes.
goal. Yeah, learn
Yeah.
to surf.
Lisbon's great for that.
Mhm.
Yeah, or well, to learn surfing, Lisbon's great, but in Portugal, they have, the town is called Nazaré, and they
Mhm.
have like these 30-meter waves. I don't know if you've seen like there's like surf. I mean, I would never do it, but I'm just saying
You could though.
it's spectacular just to watch. Like
Yeah.
because you're up on this mountain, Nazaré, the city is on a mountain, and then you look down, or a hill, and you look down to the beach, and you basically see those huge waves coming onto the beach. And you're here, and you just see how it happens in the
Oh
web.
my god. Sounds kinda terrifying. Like
Yeah, I would never surf there, but
yeah, never.
there's like professional people that enjoy it. There's like that's a thrill for them. They go there
Mhm.
and ride the 30-meter waves. So yeah, Portugal is definitely a surfing country. I can
Yes, yes.
definitely.
What were you saying? Portugal, great place to be. Call center.
Yeah, yeah, I just felt like telling that story. No, no, because of the thing with, yeah, sometimes, and maybe I'm contradicting myself in the same sentence, which happens if you just say what you think all the time. Um, but obviously, those 3 years definitely helped me a lot, like,
Mhm.
or 3.5 or whatever it was at the end. Um, like that whole journey again was supposed to happen exactly like it happened because um, it made me ready to where I was ready to go to New Zealand and start like my whole new travel chapter now with me
Mhm.
going to Australia and then South America after and all these things that I'm gonna do. Um, but yeah, I just feel like maybe that's a thing of comfort zone as well. Like once you have an established thing and a job is like in these days, it is like the defining thing, especially if you work a full-time job. Like that is the majority of your day.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, if you do have a job that maybe feels a little bit monotonous, like you said, you can have that feeling of, uh, even if objectively, I definitely think and know that I grew, might not feel like that all the time. It's like, oh, am I running in circles here?
Yes. Yeah, totally. It's also hard to have energy to do anything when it's like, uh, yeah, you do the same thing every day and you need the time to like recoup after work and you're like, oh, but I want to change things, but you don't have the will to do it. It's also, yeah, very comforting to stay where you are. Like the reason I stayed in Toronto for so long is because I was like, it's kind of, I feel like no matter how much traveling you do, when you go back home, it's kind of hard to leave again. I don't
Mm,
know. Maybe that was just, maybe it's because I stayed in Canada for so long when I finished traveling last. And I was kind of like, um, yeah, a little bit scared to come back out again, but then once I was here, I was like, "This is easy. I can't believe I didn't do this sooner." Do you relate to that?
Um, so yes and no.
Yes and no.
Because for me, And yeah, I feel like I've said this. And but I never really saw myself growing old in Germany. Like from a
Mhm.
very young age, I didn't really feel the vibe in Germany. Is that how the young kids say it these days?
The vibe.
The
Yeah, it is what
vibe.
they say.
Um,
Am I the young kids? I think I'm already too old for the young kids.
you're already young.
Oh, okay, cool. Still
Um,
cool.
so yeah, it kind of never really felt part of the German mentality as I described it. I kind of didn't really see myself, and obviously, the German system is a perfectly working system. Like it has a great economy. Like all these things I acknowledge, and it's a like the country itself is working beautifully. Um, well, obviously every system has problems, but overall, it's a good system. But I just never saw myself in Germany, and there's a lot of things in Germany that I don't 100% agree with. So for me, um, when I get back to Germany, um, it's always because you haven't been there for a while. So it's always very exciting. It's new again. You get to see your friends again. You get to
Mhm.
see your family, and that part of it is really, really good. But then at some point, um, I just feel like, yeah, this is not where I want to live for the longer time. So I kind of have that yearning to go abroad, go somewhere else again. But with all that being said, I definitely relate to the point, um, especially when um, when I travel and then I come back and I stay with my parents again because I don't have a like my own thing. And then you stay with your parents, and it is so easy to just go into that like that comfort zone again. Like you back home. You have your friends, and it is great, and it's you can just um kind of yeah you can catch up with them every evening. You can you're just enjoying, and it's easy to for time to pass, and you be like yeah I'm just in this very comfortable environment. But yeah, maybe luckily I have that other thing that's kind of still reminding me, well, if you kind of want to go again. So for
Yeah.
me, I do um maybe that overweighs it a little bit, and that's why I don't have too much of a problem with them leaving again.
Mm, got it. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I'm still unsure about whether Canada is my home as well. I
Mhm.
think for a long time I thought like, oh, for sure it's not, but I think I've been warming up a little bit to it,
Mhm.
which is wild. Do you ever see yourself warming up to Germany's Europe, or is it like a hard no?
Well,
Or
I have to say, and I said this to my friends and totally meant it. Like, when I was visiting, think the whole 3.5 years I lived in Portugal, because it was also COVID going on, because I moved to Portugal basically also because of COVID. Because COVID happened, I didn't want to stay in Germany. I also couldn't travel. So I compromised with Portugal. Um, so I moved there August 2020. So like for 1.5 to 2 years, however you want to see it, COVID was still happening.
mhm,
So travel was still like not really a thing. Um, so in those 3.5 years, I've been home. Well, 3 times, really 2 times, because one time we were just straight going to Prague for the bachelor party of my best friend. So um, basically 2 times I've been back, and the cool thing about our friend group as well is like we still have this. I would call it huge. For me, it's huge. We have like 10 plus friends that still regularly do things together. And they basically all, because we come from a town a little bit outside of Munich, all of us, and they basically all, but two or three of them, me being one of them, um, are not like they are all in Munich except for two or three people. So, like the whole friend group, they all live in Munich now. So, when I visited, it was just really I told him, "Look, this is kind of amazing. You're in the city, everyone lives in the
mhm.
city, you have your friend groups, and see each other almost every day, even after work, not all 10 of them, but you always see someone, and
Mhm.
um I told them this is actually pretty amazing. I can see my because that's one of the first questions I get asked, like after how you doing is when are you moving here? So I always
Yeah.
tell them like I can definitely like in theory see myself there. I really appreciate that we still have this bond and everyone's like living so close to each other and it's a good life. But right now I just still have I'm not there yet where I feel like I've seen it all. So
Yes.
I'm not ready to commit to a place yet. So I still think because while I still have that in my head, it would also be unfair to settle down because then I would always have that. Uh,
That
uh,
feeling of, like, I need to go out and see that stuff. I don't wanna
s-
miss it. Yeah.
so yeah, even though I really appreciate that, and it might be a thing that I come back to at some
Mhm.
point, because I'm pretty sure they will all be there still. Because yeah, they started to buy houses there and everything. Like it's a great life that they're having there.
Mhm.
Um, So I can definitely see myself joining that at some point, but right now it would be unfair to everyone involved for me to go there because I'm not ready to like go there yet.
Yeah. I think that's really, interesting because you talked about how comforting it was to have, like, all the community and, uh, I think there's such a stress with, like, independence, like,
Mm,
that's become something super important. I hear that all the time, like, be independent, like, as if it's, like, this amazing thing, but I think
right.
humans naturally don't need to be independent in the sense of, like, the way it's being used, the way the word is being used.
Yeah,
I think being able to, like, self-regulate and be able to, like, handle your emotions and stuff in that way, but I think we're meant to rely on our communities a little bit, like, rely on them for help and rely on each other for help and, yeah, have those, like, close-knit communities, so that's really interesting.
definitely.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think one of the stupidest things I've heard, but it kind of was. Yeah, I call you a young person now. I'm saying our generation, but you know
Yeah.
what I mean. Like, I feel like it's a message that definitely get misconstrued as you definitely don't have to do it all on your own.
No, and
Like,
you
that's
shouldn't.
the stupidest thing you
Yeah.
could do. Like, why would you do that? It's again, you're limiting yourself. Why would you not accept help? Why would you not seek out the comfort of other
Yeah,
people?
it's
Like,
just isolating yourself a little bit, and it's just not the way I think we should live. Yeah. Like, naturally, humans wouldn't be able to survive on their own. Like, you need a community in order to survive,
yeah,
and I just think the more we stray from the natural way of things, the more we build cities and isolate ourselves and, like, stray from
mm,
how we're meant to live, the more that these, like, mental health problems will come up and, like, yeah, your
definitely,
creativity will go down like we were talking earlier. Like, I just think we really need to connect. It's so important to connect back to our roots and what's natural. Yeah.
I mean, sometimes it's also. And again, I'm just saying things to everyone who's listening who doesn't agree. I'm just saying things, but
Yeah.
sometimes I feel like just to realize things is also good. Like not saying anything is good or bad, but just realizing that the facts are, well, cities were basically created for factory work. It was the Industrial Revolution. Like the
Mhm,
only reason why cities got so popular is because we wanted to get people to a place where they could just do work, work, work. So
mhm.
that's kind of what a city, and maybe that's not true. I'm just telling it like it's true. But yeah, so maybe the city doesn't have your best interest in heart. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good observation. Yeah. Uh 'Cause we're also sold the idea of the Industrial Revolution of making our lives easier, and I feel like it's quite done the opposite. I was having a conversation with my dad the other day,
Mm,
and he was saying that back in his day, as they
right.
always say, as that the
In the
older
good
generation
old
always says, the good
days.
old days, walking uphill both ways to school.
Mm,
Yeah. He said that things were a lot easier, um, in the sense that you could just walk next door and ask for a job and you get one. Whereas
right.
nowadays you have to do like the applications, you have to send out tons of applications, you have to the cover letter, you have to have your references, you have to have like he
Sure.
just has every aspect of life. Like um there's just so many extra steps to it. Whereas it should be the opposite. No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That definitely, and yeah, that's again a thing where technology definitely helps us. It also, yeah, it was just, yeah, I also don't like, I mean, I obviously have my own opinions, but I don't like to throw around good or bad too
No.
much because like everyone has their own
There's
opinions.
pros and cons to
But
technology.
like
Yeah.
it was definitely different. Like it was just different times, and sometimes, and also we like to romanticize, and I especially like to romanticize like the past. Like that is a thing that we love to romanticize the
Mhm.
past. But yeah, it was different times, and there was definitely things that were cooler about these times than they are
Yeah.
now.
I think romanticizing the past is kind of dangerous in a way because yeah, like it's coming out as glamorous, you know? You know what I mean? Like the
Mm,
whole like living in a cottage and cooking and
right,
cleaning and doing all this stuff and like living back then is seen as like glamorous where it wasn't. And I think that it kind of takes away a lot of the uh it makes it seem less like hard work than it was.
right,
And
right.
I feel like when we do that, we also devalue the work that went into that kind of life as well. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah, where I hear a lot of discourse going along saying like, "Oh, I wish I was like a housewife and I wish I was like living on this farm in the middle of nowhere."
Mm,
And I don't think people are really thinking how much work that is. If
right.
yeah, if that makes sense. Yeah.
No, definitely. Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense.
Yes.
'Cause I feel like there is a trend where people, and again, having good reasons to go back to that more rural life, more like self-sustaining life.
Mhm.
But I feel like if you seriously go about it, you also, the kind of work that goes into it. Like the people that want to do
That's
it,
true.
they they want to do the work because they know that they want to live that sort of life. So
Mm.
um, no, you're definitely right. Like, it's definitely not an easy life. No,
Yeah.
not at all.
I feel like it kind of concerns me a little bit because um there's kind of a sense of ooh, how do I say this? I guess do you know girl math? Have you heard the phrase girl math?
Feel like I have, but I have no idea
No idea.
what it
That's
is.
okay. It's for the young audience out there, including me. I guess it's like it was kind of like a joke online about like girls being bad at math.
Mm,
And kind of glorifying it a little bit, like, oh, I'm just a girl. Like, have you heard that? I'm just a girl.
right.
And I feel like that is also really, really dangerous in the
Yeah.
sense of like it's like, yeah, you're joking, like when you say that, but like maybe your younger
S
brother doesn't know you're joking and he just
mm,
thinks it's real, or like your younger sister doesn't know you're joking and she starts thinking she's bad at math because she's a girl.
right.
And then you also pair this with the glorification of
Like,
housewifing and cottage living. And I feel like you're kind of breeding this generation that wants to go back to like that conservative lifestyle.
mm,
Yeah, in the sense of like the girl shouldn't handle the finances because she's bad at math, so she should be totally isolated. And
right.
yeah, it's just super super interesting. I see something weird happening on social media. I see that happening on social media a little bit. Um,
So
yeah.
so, I mean,
Yeah.
it kinda sparks a little picture in my head,
Yeah. Okay.
but not to the extent that I would know, like, exactly, 100% what you were talking about, but that no, but
I was rambling a little bit.
no, but
Yeah.
it actually, that is dangerous. So it kinda became this joke where
Mhm.
girls, or women, or well, mostly girls probably,
Yeah.
would go like, "Yeah,
Oh, I'm
I'm
just a
just."
girl. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I can see that definitely, some people picking that up the wrong way.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And then, yeah, that whole, like, cottage lifestyle is very isolating, and if they also don't wanna be in charge of the finances because they think it'll be easier and they think it's easy, they think it's easier life, and,
Right.
yeah, I think it's just, like, a very, dangerous thing if we're not very careful about the way we see that kinda life, you know what I mean? That's yeah.
No, that
Anyways, it's something I've been thinking about a lot lately. I've been very, um, mindful about it. Yeah.
it's yeah, it's just such an interesting topic in general.
Mhm.
Um, that obviously everyone has their own opinions, and I mean everyone should go and do the things that they like, that they genuinely like, not because they feel like they have to live a certain life. But if you figure yourself out, if you come to terms with yourself, that's the most important part first. Like really be well, yeah, kind of at peace with yourself,
Mm.
kind of knowing, yep, that's something that I can go for, that's something I can confidently go for. And yeah, then everyone, if your way of life doesn't obviously hurt anyone or takes away
Yes.
anything from anyone else, then everyone should live their life.
Mhm.
Go for it. And but yeah, it's always, and I love those kind of things, just to like, the theorize, is that an English word?
You rise, yeah.
Theorize just
Mhm.
about different types of living. I love this kind of thing, just
Yes.
theorizing about it. Um, but yeah, in the end, everyone should do what they want, and everyone's different, and that's the beauty of it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I 100% agree. I would love to live in like off grid and like all that stuff. I think it'd be super fun and challenging, but I don't want to go back to the way it was. And I think that's the
Mm,
difference. I want to
yeah,
live that life in a
mm,
modern way.
live it now in the
Yeah,
yeah,
in the today.
what we already yeah, what we
Yeah.
established as a society and
Yeah,
all
I hear
this.
people saying like, "Oh, I was born in the wrong generation." I was like, "Oh, you're definitely not." What, you don't want rights? Like, God. No. Yeah.
I'm a little bit more cynical. I might have gone like, well, if you think like that, maybe you were.
Maybe you were. Yeah.
No, but yeah, you're definitely right. Um, well, yeah, that took a turn, but
Sorry.
I I loved it. I enjoyed it, and yeah, we did 1.5 hours. That flew by.
It did fly by. Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, we talked about a
Hmm.
lot of things. It actually was a pleasure. I enjoyed it.
Thank you for giving me a platform to share all of my crazy ideas. Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
That's what we're here for. Uh, yeah. I hope you had fun as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Was delightful. I actually had a
Uh,
horrible time.
yeah, I'm gonna cut that out.
Yeah, fair enough.
Um, no, I'm obviously gonna leave it in now because I threatened to cut it out.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, have a nice evening. I'm not telling the people how late it is. And
Yeah, it's too late.
that is, yeah, bye everyone.
Bye.